morning, Roxy Soxy.
Good. Almost my bedtime, Tam. How are you?
How's your day? I don't even know what day it is at this point of like it being around the Christmas holidays. I'm just like, where am I? When am I going back to the States? Like, who am I?
I feel like it's the 13th of Christmas. You know,
it just never stops.
Never stops. And then once like the month of December hits, it's like there's no like days anymore. I feel like it all just kind of blends in. Like it turns into one big chunk of time. And we're always late running to get somewhere, and nothing is done. Presents aren't purchased.
No. And what do you think? Because we talked about this last podcast. Like, I haven't done presents. Like, my husband and I haven't given each other presents for probably years. Like, even on my birthday, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just weird. Like, I find the gift giving idea strange. I don't know why. Like, I'm just like, well, my husband and I, it's like the same bank account, and we like have the same budgeting and the same goals. And it's like, so then I'm just going to like on a specific day, go buy myself an iPad. You know what I mean? And just be like, but then you're going to wrap it and then say it's not from our savings, but it is. And then put a bow on it. And I'll be like, oh my God, it's Christmas. Like, we just wasted $1,000. Like, for me, I don't know what it is, but like giving each other gifts when it's this, look, again, if someone gave me something from my friend, like, sure, it'd be very lovely. But I just, the idea of giving stuff, I think it's because we've been on the road and we're in this Airbnb and like we haven't had a lot of stuff with us. Like the idea of minimalism, I'm just like, more stuff. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about gifts and presents, but I feel like, do I need any more stuff? From the same savings account.
And I will answer that for you. If you rent yet another storage space, I will kill you.
I know. I've got 4 storage spaces. If that's not an indication that I'm drowning in stuff, I don't know what is.
Yeah. I'm putting my foot down. I'm saying no more stuff.
1 in Austin, 2 in LA, 1 in Australia. Like, that's a problem. Like, that's an issue. That's something I should talk to with my therapist.
How many storage units can you collect? This is the question.
It's like it's like literally paying off a house by this point of how much money I'm spending on storage units. So I don't know, question, and then we're going to get to our guest, but tell me, what do you think about David giving you a gift from your own account?
Okay. So here's the thing.
You need more stuff.
It depends how badly I want it. Like, if it's something that I am like, I need this, or I want this, like,
then go buy it.
I know, but then I have this like false sense of like, oh, he got it. Even if I'm telling him like what I want, I'm like, oh, he made the effort to go out and buy the gift, come back, wrap it up, put it under the tree, and like do the effort. I think that's what I like about it. I think I like the effort of him making it happen.
But what about the effort of him rubbing your feet or getting you a tea or like saying nice things when you're in a shitty mood? Like, isn't that, it's interesting. The conversation is like, it's interesting the weight we place on stuff and gifts.
Yes. I agree with that for sure.
But now, you don't care.
I still want that Chanel bag. No, but I would take a foot rub. This is something he is not good at, I'd say he's not good at the foot rub. Is Sean?
Right. Oh God, Sean's just the worst I don't know what it is. Maybe it's all men. That's probably just a generalization or all partners. But when he goes into my shoulders, it's like, I honestly don't know why we're here and wasting our time. Like, why am I sitting? Like, I shouldn't have even asked in the first place. It's like, why is this happening? It's almost like a dead fish hand. Like, it's just horrible. I don't you know what? He's a director and a writer. He's better at other things than having to massage my neck. But no, he's pretty terrible. No,
yeah, but it's so true. And then you get more angry, you know, then you're like,
oh my God. Like, how do you not know to not massage me like the massage place does? Well, we should ask our next guest if her partner gives good massages or not. So we should see. So tell everyone who we have and what is going on, Roxy.
I mean, we have the most amazing guest on today. She is like, her name is Zibby Owens. If you don't already know her, which I'm sure lots of you do, she has an amazing podcast. She is the creator of the Moms Don't Have Time to Read book series. She has, like I said, the podcast. She also just recently launched another podcast called Sex Talk, which is right up our alley.
I was about to say, can we talk sexy time on this podcast? But now I know we can.
Oh, yes, we can. So without further ado, let's welcome Zibby Owens.
Woo!
I don't usually get announced as like with my sex talk podcast, but as like the leading thing, but I'll take it. It's great.
You know what? Our audience will love
Yes.
you. We just had an amazing sex expert come on the
No, I'm
podcast
delighted.
before
And
this.
it's Sex Talk TOK because for a little bit we went viral on TikTok. So that's why Sex Talk.
Oh, very
Interesting.
good.
So question, why go from mom's like a very, obviously mom centric, moms don't have time to read books podcast, moms don't have time on all the other books that you're also putting together, you have put together. Like why now branch into a whole different sort of books, the whole different sphere? Like why?
So, okay. So first I had Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Then I launched Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight. And it was supposed to be Moms Don't Have Time to Have Sex. So that's what we called it.
Gotcha.
And that was also a piece of my anthology. It was one section of my first anthology called Moms Don't Have Time to. But once my social media manager was like, let's try this on TikTok. And she took like the most embarrassing. So it's, we have anonymously sourced questions, like a Dear Abby column. And I am really embarrassed to talk about all this stuff. And I do it with Tracy Cox, who is a sex expert.
Let's do it on this show.
Yeah.
So I literally I have to whisper the questions sometimes to her. I'm so embarrassed. And then she goes off and answers them all factual and everything. And, yeah, so that's why we renamed it Sex Talk with Zibby and Tracy because, all these literally my son's friend from boarding school sat next to me once and was like, oh, you're on my For You page of TikTok. And so embarrassing. So that's why we branched out that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, I had a kick. I was listening to it today. You guys are great together, you and Tracy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Doling out the advice. And I love it too, because it sort of reminds me of Tammin and myself, because I tend to get like a little more embarrassed maybe. And like Tammin's so good. So good with just putting it all out there. So tell me about how tell us about like how your partnership with Tracy came about.
Sure. Oh, I feel bad now. I should have brought her. We could have had like a double date.
Yes.
Oh, well, we can come visit you on yours too.
That's true.
Oh, we have to write a book though, Roxy. So let's make Women on Top into a book.
Yes. Good title. Very good title for a book. How did it come about with Tracy? I interviewed her for my Read Books podcast about her book, Hot Sex Starts at 50 or something like that. And she was so awesome. She's British. I just love listening to her speak. She was so knowledgeable and so dynamic. And after the podcast, I was like, I have to do my Moms Don't Have Time to Have Sex podcast with you. Like, we should do that together. At first, I was like, you just do the podcast and I'll, help you get it all up started and everything. And she's like, well, I want to do it with you. So I got over my complete embarrassment and decided to do it with her. And we just had so much fun. We still have so much fun. I really look forward to it every week. So
I find it fascinating that I'm very sex positive, always have been, came from Australia. I'm in Australia right now. Like nudity, your body was never shameful. Moving to America, I was like, oh my gosh, like when we mention sex or your body, like everyone's like, shh, don't say anything. And so like when your sex life does change after you have kids, you feel like, again, that word, like you feel like you're a failure and you're really ashamed by it because no one is talking about the fact that your hormones change, your body changes, the way you view your body also changes. And it doesn't really make for like a sexy environment to have, great intimacy. And I found that really changed after my first kid. But now I feel like we're having better sex. And the thing is, like, you're right. Like, if we don't talk about it, we feel very isolated in our own experiences. We feel very alone. We feel like we're the only people who feel this way. And then it then kicks in the shame, the guilt, and all of that. And so, like, how does that create a good sex life? But yeah, I think talking about those subjects, as sometimes vulnerable as they feel, I think it's super important. Don't you, Rox?
I do. And it's like you're saying, you have to come out of your comfort zone and really put yourself out there, because I know, like, for example, with me, like, I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, am I like the only person who gets like embarrassed or whatever? But like, so many people have the same view. And like, even with problems and things, I feel like people are going through the same things. And I think, like, because we've created this community where, things aren't taboo and where where you can really say anything, I think it just goes to the point where it just helps so many people.
Do you guys feel that being a mom it's almost like you can't feel sexy. I
Mm.
wrote a whole essay on this recently about like, can you feel sexy and be sexual and be a sexual being and still be a mom? Or do you think being a mom sort of takes away some of that part of you?
I mean, for me, I think that, I feel sexier if I'm away with my husband somewhere personally.
Without,
Like,
right.
right? Like if I'm like, if we're on a trip or like in a hotel or like somewhere kind of away, I know that like if it's like the three of us and we're at home and
Right.
it's like post pickup at school, it just doesn't feel as sexy to me. I mean, I feel too, I think also when I'm sort of like, out and about with friends and we're like enjoying a great
Mhm.
meal, out to dinner or
Because you remember
whatever.
who you are.
Yes, exactly. Good point, Tammin. Good point.
Mhm.
I have to say I'm divorced from the father of my kids and I'm remarried, and that has been amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
now
of
I've been
course.
remarried for like 5 years. But I'll tell you, I think it's not so much the fact that I'm a mom that makes me feel less sexy. It's whatever's going on with my body. And I think that
Mhm.
right
Mm,
after you have kids and you feel not great about your body, that's what's it's that. It's not the kids themselves.
mm,
I literally just posted on Instagram like a few minutes ago about I've put on some weight lately and I just feel just so disgusting. And people have said, why are you posting all this stuff on Instagram? And I'm like, well, I mean,
I'm being
I
honest.
just tell
Yeah.
it like it
yeah.
is. Like I feel bad about it, and I bet I'm not the only one. And
Mhm,
there's like this shame attached to it, and of course, then that is going to like eke into every part of your life, including your
Mhm.
sexual life. When like you just
mhm,
feel gross. How do you I don't know.
Mhm.
So I think it's all linked up, but I don't think it's the fact that you're a mom.
And it's the
mm,
conversation too about like why.
mhm,
And I had my two kids that were 10 pounds each, and my stomach is totally stretched out. Right.
mm,
So why do I look at my stomach and go, you are a negative scar to me,
mm,
instead of going, wow, like you were able to stretch and grow a human being and bring a child into this world. I don't see it like that. I see it as a blemish. And I see that if I'm not perfect, or what I think perfectionism is, then I'm not worthy, you know?
mm,
And it's like it's a bigger conversation, because I agree with you. Like, I wish that it was all about self-love in my house. I wish I looked at my body and was like, you know what? Look at these stretch marks. Like, you kick ass. Like, look at these thighs and they're jelly and that's great. But I don't. I sit there and I put myself down and I cut myself down because of the way I look. And that's just the way that society has viewed women's bodies for so long. And if you don't fit into this box, it's just not celebrated.
mhm,
Well, I also think it's not as comfortable. Right?
mhm,
Like
Right.
it's like objectively not as comfortable. When you're like all
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's not just I don't want to put it all on the media.
mm.
I think it's the ease of being able to run around or like having
Yeah.
stuff
Yep.
fit,
Yep.
or I don't know. I think it's a whole thing.
I mean, I think things are changing in a more positive direction, but we have to
Right.
also remember this is decades upon decades of programming that we've all had, that it's, there's just one sort of body type that's quote unquote ideal or beautiful. And it's, we should all aspire to be like this. This is like the programming that we've all had. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
to even undo all of this stuff, not to mention, Tam, like, you're in this Hollywood business. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, you're an actress, and it's like constantly being judged by your outward appearance.
Right.
It's got to do, like, it has to, like, it's got to do some damage, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
even for me, I noticed, like, in the 15 years I've been doing this kind of stuff, even as a host, a TV host, it's still, to me, I still feel badly about myself thinking about the things that people have said to me, or like comments on, social media, or, that kind of programming that's just been there and been there and been there over and
Mm-hmm.
over again.
My husband said to me the other
Mhm,
day, I was like, why, when women get to a certain age, do they start to become invisible?
mm,
And he's like, look, I love you. You'll never be invisible to me. But the truth is, and this is interesting to think if you think of like, a mankind, is that men can spread their seed until they die.
mhm,
And so they're always viable. They're
mhm,
always viable to procreate. They're always viable to create life, and women are only able to create life up until a certain point. So if you look at creation, it's like maybe women have started to become invisible, and why they want to keep looking a certain way is because once we look like we can't have kids anymore, then we become, the society tells us that we're less needed, and maybe it's just like something that goes back way longer than we were here.
Yeah, there's definitely something evolutionary about it. However, I do think grandmothers are super important. So sometimes more so even than moms. So there should be like this resurgence. I just think today nobody wants to look like a grandmother. So forget that.
Well, we don't want to show our age. We don't want to show our lines. We don't want to show like any of the history of like what we've been through as far as it, affects our physicality and how we look. And it's kind of a shame because I mean, I say this on the podcast and I don't always believe it too, because I mean, again, goes back to that programming, but like aging is a privilege, not everybody gets to do it. And I'm not quite sure why we feel so embarrassed to show the experience that we've had. It's kind of like we're lucky to get those experiences,
You're right. You're so right.
We collectively have to do something different though. You know what I mean? Like it's very hard to say, well, like you stand up and show yourself like you are on your Instagram, but yet everyone else is using Facetune apps and they're morphing their bodies and they're getting threads and facelifts and all these things. It's like everyone has to start kind of doing it as a whole, or there is really no change, I mean, maybe the change is talking about it. Maybe it's having these types of conversations and what Zibby is doing as well. And that leads me to my next question. How did you build this empire? Like where did you start? Why did you start? Like what was the reason behind wanting to do what you were doing?
It's really grown. I started it by accident almost. Part of it is that I was writing a memoir, and when I pitched the idea for a book, when I pitched originally the idea for a book of essays. Okay, let me back up. I didn't say that very well. Basically, when I got divorced, I suddenly had lots of time on every other weekend to read and write. I have 4 kids, and not being with them was like heartbreaking. So I got back into writing and reading, which I had always loved to do. And I started writing a lot for HuffPost, and some articles went viral. And after a while, I had amassed a bunch of them, and Kyle, who's now my husband, and back then we were dating, said, you should really make a book of all these essays. And I said, moms don't have time to read books. And I thought that was so funny. I was like, that'll be the title of my book. I love that.
Yeah.
So when I met with some agents, they were like, well, you don't have a platform. You're not on social media, which I wasn't. I didn't have any accounts. And they were like, and we don't think that's funny for publishers as a title anyway. But what other ideas do you have? So I decided to use that title as a podcast when a girlfriend of mine who was a middle grade author suggested I start a podcast, which I had never thought about doing. However, I love talking to people. I mean, this is like amazing. I get to sit here and chat with the two of you. I love books. I love reading authors, getting the backstory of everything. So it just started with the one podcast, and then I wanted to move that into real life. So I started having salons in my apartment, just inviting all my friends over to talk to authors. Then I started having book fairs, because wouldn't it be cool if I just sold all the books and have all the authors meet each other, because community is super important to me. So a lot of these things came out of my desire to create a community around what I was doing and spread the love of books that I was excited about. And then things really ramped up during the pandemic when I was really trying hard to be there for all the authors who had their book tour canceled. I started a daily Instagram live show with 5 author interviews a day. I started a book club online. I published essays, which eventually became an anthology. And then I ramped up my podcast to daily, which it still is. So it started at once a week. And now I did one literally every day of 2021. So it's just grown. And from there, I had 2 anthologies come. And then, as you mentioned, the Sex Talk podcast. Then I gained weight during the pandemic, so I started the Lose Weight podcast. And I just keep expanding. So my biggest thing most recently is I started a publishing company, which I also never sort of intended to do. But now we're publishing fiction and memoir, 12 books a year, starting in 2023. And I have like a whole team. And that's like a whole nother job. So Yeah, it's a lot, but it's really fun. So it basically came from wanting to try to sell a book, which eventually I did, and I have this memoir coming out in July 1st called Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature. So that's really sort of where it all started. And now I'm planning my summer booking schedule for the podcast. I'm like, well, I should really probably take a week or two off so I can deal with publicizing this book after all this time. This has taken almost, I started in March of 2018, so it's taking quite a while, but here we are.
Amazing.
Well, I think you're quite different than the title of your book, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books, because you seem to find time to do all of these things.
Everything.
Yes. Are you?
Yeah, I was gonna be like, you have time to read books.
Yeah, you clearly have time to read books. Are you just like the best time manager? How do you get all of these things done?
I am a really good time manager. I
Okay.
do everything really quickly. I do not finish all the books anymore. It's impossible. But I taught myself how to speed read, so I can go through a whole book in an hour tops and get everything I need out of it.
Wow.
I miss some sentences, but
Okay.
I know how to slow down and speed up where I'm interested the most. So it's become a real skill. Plus, the author interviews I do are not only about the books, right? Like our talk, your talk goes, I really want to hear about the people. So I try to read as much as I can. It takes me a really long time to go through all the pitches. Probably as much time as I spend reading is figuring out which books I want to read and which books to feature. And then I have columns for Katie Couric Media every week and Good Morning America every month. So I have to make sure I'm up on all the books so that I pick the right ones. I don't know. I just, I don't know. I'm like about to collapse at this point. I don't know how long I can keep this up, but to be honest, it's because I love it all so much that I don't ever feel like I'm working. I mean, even when I'm like, that's enough, I'm having the worst day, I just need to relax, then I read. So it's like, I can't really get away from it.
What would you tell someone? Because, we get asked this question all the time. Like, how do you start? Like, how do you start a podcast? How do you start in this space? Like, did you get any help from anywhere? Like, did you just start and just like follow what you love to do? Is that kind of the secret? Like, what is the secret sauce for building something that's successful? I mean, I guess if I looked at like my life, it was just kind of probably perseverance and like use failure into a way to make solutions maybe, and like, be able to pivot. But like, what would be your sort of key elements to creating something successful?
I didn't even care at the beginning if anybody listened. I was just doing what I wanted to do.
Yep.
I've tried to launch businesses. Like I helped my family start this crumb cake business. I've like tried to do things on purpose that haven't necessarily worked out. But this was something I was doing on the side because I loved it. And it spread from word of mouth. And I've been really patient because I didn't really have an immediate goal, right? I wasn't like, I have to do this by this time. I was like, and it just spread, a couple people telling a couple people. And I was really patient because each conversation was exciting to me. So I can't say that's the secret sauce. I think as it's grown, I have a million ideas all the time. So part of my problem is figuring out which ones not to do. And I like to try them and test them, and nothing that's like too expensive, right? The things that I'm testing are like, let me try not this podcast. Like I tried a podcast, Kids Do Have Time to Read Books, and it lasted, I don't know, a couple weeks. And I was like, well, this is a bad idea because I just really want to talk to the authors about the same old stuff. So I'll just put them on the other podcast. But I like to try, throw things at the wall, see what sticks. I like to surround myself by really smart, awesome people who I enjoy spending time with. So I have an amazing team, both for the podcast and Zibby Books, and then even to help with my kids while I'm doing all this stuff. And my kids are older now, so they can be a part of it. Like we're all on the couch today, and I was like talking to Lee Newman, who I run my publishing company with, and the kids were all just hanging out, kind of listening on speaker. There's nothing I'm doing that's private, so I try to involve them in everything. I don't know. Yeah, perseverance and passion, really. I mean, I am so passionate about what I do. This is what I would do if I weren't doing this. Like if I stopped the podcast tomorrow, I'd still want to read all the books. So
that's really interesting that you say that you bring, the kids have been around when you've been doing business. And so they get to like a kind of a bird's eye view of like what's going on, which I think is really important to involve your kids, in your passions and what you do. And I was wondering, because obviously business runs in the blood in your family. Was that also for you growing up? was your dad really inclusive of you, of like, you know, of his side of the business, working in finance and kind of like bringing you into that? And then also, did you get in trouble for not going into the family business?
Yeah.
If you saw how badly I did in finance class, you would understand why he's like, never, like, you know, there's like a big lock on the door. You know, I'm kidding, but he would no, that is not the right place for me. Finance is not where I should be. However, entrepreneurial spirit that I did inherit. I mean, I remember sitting at a restaurant with my dad and my grandfather and a bunch of people. We were trying to name his company and figuring out how to name it. What should we call it? What should the logo look like? And as my dad's company has expanded, he's always like going into new areas and sensing new opportunities. So I've watched that. I've watched him start up even things for the nonprofit world. Like Schwarzman Scholars, he started this whole program. This is like a Rhodes Scholarship type program in China. And he just like dreams up these ideas. And he's like, everybody tells me no, and I just do it. So that's part of the family lore is like, and my grandfathers both were entrepreneurs as well. And so I think this whole, and my brother now started a company. He's a movie producer. So, and my husband now too. I think it's just this love of having an idea and then trying it and not letting all the no's stop you, right? Like if you believe it, it has, and then
And you
are
manifest
passionate
it.
and you believe it has merit. You know, so many people told me like, well, you know, people don't want to hear about books. Like books are dying business, or why would people care? Or people don't want to watch videos of authors or whatever. And then, you know, they're doing all that stuff. So I just was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to do it and we're going to see what happens. And I'm not going to listen to the no's. So I think that's more that than the nuts and bolts of the actual content of the business. I think it was just the starting of it.
So having a billionaire as a father, you seem incredibly grounded. Like a lot of people who have that upbringing don't turn out like you. So what was he like? Well, what is he like as a parent? Like, what are the things he instilled in you that are different maybe from other kids growing up with very, you know, successful, wealthy fathers? Like he must have done something different for you to have turned out like this.
Well, first of all, I mean, a lot of this wealth has been created recently. It's been growing over time, but you know, when I was 5 years old, like I didn't get everything I wanted for the holidays. Like I was just out at the, you know, some show on Broadway with my kids, and I was like, you know, I was never allowed to get M&Ms and a drink.
I wasn't allowed a chocolate ice cream top.
I wasn't. They were like, that's such a waste of money, and you know. They were like, we never would fly first class because, like, we get there at the same time. And I'm like, I'm going to fly first class now. But, you know, that's the way we grew up. Not to say we didn't have a lot of luxuries. We did. But I don't know. Both my parents, I can't just credit my dad or my mom would kill me. But I think both of them, I don't know. Everybody believes in hard work. And my mom's from the Midwest, and that's just, I don't know. But
were you given, maybe it's like, were you given, as you, like you said, you weren't given everything that you wanted. So you had to work for it. So that is the good lesson for our children to, like, you know, they need to earn what they get, or, you know, it's not just handed to you. And I think that's a big, like for people who do have wealth or who are making money or whatever, I feel like there's a lot of handouts, and then you just don't really understand the value of it. You know what I mean? The value of money. And that's what I'm trying to teach my girls is like, what is the value of something? You know, like, you know, what does it mean when you work this hard? And like let them have that experience of actually feeling it and touching it and buying something. And then it runs out, right? So you can't just, it doesn't just keep free flowing in. And I think that does instill a different type of traits within someone than someone who's just given whatever they want.
Yeah, I think so too. I think also modeling hard work and good values, right? Like, excuse me, like my kids are going to be normal because like I'm a normal person. I'm not worried about them. Even if I give them some M&Ms at the movie theater or whatever it is. Because like I have good values, and I think you can have a lot less money and have really bad values, to be honest. So we just had, you know, our Hanukkah celebration or whatever, and we packed up this morning all these shopping bags full of toys. I was like, we don't need these. And we took them all to the hospital to give to kids who were, inpatient for over the holidays, because how awful is that? So anyway, just instilling all these things as part of life, like not to make a point, but just like, of course, this is what we're going to do. So I don't know.
It's also a really valuable lesson too, I think, when you're letting kids use money and letting them go, some money that they've earned or made through allowance or however they have it, and to have them go and purchase something, it gives them a sense of pride. It's like, I worked hard for this $5 or whatever, however much it is. Now I can go buy this stuffy, and it instills that sense of pride in them that they can't get otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yes. No, but my twins, who were 14 and a half, they both worked last summer as camp counselors and earned money and saved money, and I got bank accounts for them and the whole thing. Like, they have to learn how to do that. So
yeah, it's a really good lesson.
So one of the interviews that you had said that you interviewed Hilary Clinton, and you were very nervous about that. Can you go through the day of interviewing Hilary Clinton?
The day was a regular crazy day. I probably did a bunch of other podcasts, had a bunch of meetings, ran around, stopped, picked up my kids, took the dog out, raced home, blah, 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 had dinner with the kids. Then I ran up here, and I changed my clothes really quickly. I put on a little bit of extra makeup, and I was like, don't come in.
Don't let her come in.
Yeah, nobody come in. And like, I have this like extra set of doors that I was like closing the extra set of doors, sign on the door, put on a video for the kids. And I remember putting on a little makeup in the bathroom, which obviously I didn't do tonight. And I was just standing there being like, oh gosh, because it wasn't just that I was interviewing her. It was in front of like more than 1,000 people at the Temple Emmanuel Stryker Center live. And then I was just like, you know what? This is what you do. Like, this is what I do all day. This is what I've done, a million times, not a million, but I've done over 900 author podcasts, and this is what I do. So I knew as soon as I started talking, it would be fine. And I was super prepared. So I'm always really prepared when I talk to somebody. So I'm not like at a loss, as the two of you obviously are about me. My goodness. So yeah, it was, and then I did the thing, and then, I opened up the door, and it was time for bedtime, and nothing, nobody like,
they're just people, right? That do extraordinary things.
Exactly. Was there anything about her that surprised you that you weren't expecting?
She was funny, and she was so laid back. I just had never seen that side of her, really. So I really enjoyed that. And especially because Louise Penny was there too, her co-author for State of Terror. The two of them knew each other very well. And when I talk to people, like, I'm sure, like, I didn't want to talk about the politics of it. I wanted to talk about the fact that they had lost a mutual friend, and that sense of loss and what that felt like for them, and, all the personal things in their life that I could glean from their life story and the note in the back of the book. And of course I read the book, which was really good, but I don't know. I think, and then I share, and then they share. So they were really willing to just be open and like talking to anybody else. So it was great.
That's an exciting. Yeah. Who do you think who has been your favorite interview so far? Can you pick one out of all of them?
Well, I interviewed my dad. That was really nice. Since we're on the theme of my dad. Yeah, I interviewed him about his book, What It Takes. And I went to his office, and he just like looked at me like totally amused as I pulled out all the cords and the microphone and like had to set up the whole thing. And he was sort of like, what are you doing? So that was one of my favorites. I mean, I've interviewed, some of my favorites are not, I've had like celebrities, like I it was really cool to interview Alicia Keys, and like that was amazing, and my girls were freaking out and were like, hi. But I mean, a couple weeks ago I interviewed Dana Kennedy, who's works for Simon and Schuster. She's runs Simon and Schuster essentially, but she has a book that the movie of which is coming out on Christmas called A Journal for Jordan. And it was so moving about losing her husband, who was in the military, and raising their son without him. And we were crying, like we were just both crying in the podcast. So like that was really emotional too. Like as soon as it was over, we're texting, when can we have coffee? You know, like there's a real emotional connection, I think, as the two of you probably know. Like when you're doing a podcast, it can get very intimate very quickly in a way that it would never happen, even if you were at dinner or at a party or whatever. So
a lot of people like to talk and not listen. And that's why I think communication is the biggest issue in our society. And for you, like you've built an entire like empire on listening to people. So have you always been like that? Have you always wanted to hear people's stories? And why do you want to listen? Why do you want to hear their stories? Is it because it makes you feel part of something, of like a collective? So what is it about you that really wants to know about like the core of people?
These are such good questions.
Just on the fly right here.
No, seriously, bravo to you. I mean, oh my gosh, you can be my therapist.
Because we listen.
I know, now I feel bad. I usually listen a lot more than I'm doing on this podcast. It's because you keep asking me questions.
Please, because we're interviewing you. That's why.
Okay. I just, occupational hazard here. Yes. I have always loved to listen to people, and people have always been willing to talk to me about stuff, probably because I listen. But I'm the type of person when the guy comes to change the air conditioning filters, I hear all about his, his wife's IVF, and next thing you know, I'm giving him a doctor, and I'm just that kind of person. I'm really curious about people. I really care, and I like to help if I can. And what is it deep down about hearing people's stories? Does it make me feel connected? I don't know if that's it. Maybe, or I just find people endlessly fascinating, and I like to know. Asking questions helps me make sense of people, right? Like, where did you come from? Wait, tell me about growing up. Where did you go? Like, just give me the whole backstory. How did we get here? And then my brain kind of like adjusts when I get more and more information until things sort of settle into place. So I really like hearing about people's lives, and maybe it makes me feel more connected. I haven't felt unconnected. So I'm not sure that's exactly the need, but certainly through books has made me feel less alone, right?
It's a therapy session. You're welcome.
Yeah,
my husband's a writer, and I'm like, why do you tell stories? And I think it's because, why does he write stories? I think it's because he didn't have the best upbringing. I know you did. Well, no, you had a great upbringing, like we spoke about, but my husband didn't. And so he was alone a lot of the time. So he would fantasize about people's stories, and it would make him feel like he was part of something greater and that he fit in. I don't know if he necessarily could verbalize it the way I am, but I think it's because it made him be able to make sense of the world by telling stories. And that's probably why he's so good at it, because he needs it for something, Wow. And what did she say? What did Erica say? She said, self-loathing comes from not telling our truth or our stories.
Our stories.
So self-loathing comes from not telling out like our honest truth or something. And maybe by telling those stories, or like giving space for other people to tell those stories, then we like ourselves a little more. I don't know. I feel like there's something deeper. I feel like we can get somewhere deeper. Roxy's like, of course you do, Tammin.
No, I also think that so many authors, and myself included, I'll just lump myself in, have a lot of anxiety, right? There's something about like, and I think that's why I feel like I've really found my people is what if, like, what if the worst happened? What if this happened? What if, my mind is constantly in the what if circulation. I guess the only other reason I could think is, as a child, yes, my upbringing was lovely, but I was really shy and I had a hard time talking. And it even got to a point in my teen years where like I literally went on a summer program and could not talk. I write about this in my memoir if you want to pick it up when it comes out. But it was really hard. And I spent a lot of time analyzing language when I couldn't talk at all, and just marveling over people's sentences and how it came out so effortlessly. And I spent 5 weeks literally just like listening to language and analyzing it in both French and English, because we were on the summer program. And I don't know. I mean, that's really around the time I started publishing articles and things like that. So I don't know. I'm saying so a lot at the end of my sentences, which I don't usually do, and I don't know why. that I would flag.
So you know what? Tammin and I on this podcast, we talk a lot about anxiety, but we also talk a lot about death and like the fear of death. And she and I both have a fear of death. Like we both have anxiety from it. We stay up at night thinking about it. It's kind of one of those things that is constantly irking us. So now what we want to know is, do you also share a fear of death, or is that something that doesn't really happen for you?
I think about death all the time.
You do?
Okay. Oh, good. We would be friends then. We could just all sit and talk about death.
I think about death all the time. I have lost a lot of people who I loved. I lost my best friend when I was 25 on 9/11. She'd been my roommate for many years and all through college and after college. And I really sort of got smacked upside the head, realizing that at any moment my life could end just as suddenly. And my life has been different ever since. And I've lost a lot more people since then. But I'm very much aware that time is finite. And that's the other side of the coin with my brand. I know it's all sort of tongue in cheek, haha, but we really don't have time. We don't have all that much time in the world. And so we have to make the best of it. And it's tongue in cheek because without reading or having sex or eating or whatever, all these fun things, like what is life really? We have to get the pleasure and the joy and make the most of our limited time here. So am I scared? So again, oh my gosh, am I scared? Yeah, I get like full on panic if I'm too hard about it and how all of this like means nothing because we're all just going to die. On the other hand, every day I try to work as hard as I possibly can to finish whatever I'm doing on the offhand chance that I drop dead that day. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but maybe as death fears or whatever, you can empathize. But yeah, I think about it all the time.
I get really, I can't talk too much about like space, and I can't talk too much about like, when I watch a TV show that's in the 1900s, I'm like, all these people are dead. Yeah. Like I can't, I find it, which is so ridiculous because I should be able to enjoy period piece movies and TV shows, but I literally can't watch them without like it triggering something, and it's like, I don't want to talk about Mars. Like I know I should, but I'm like, it just, I can't fully process any of it. So then what I do is I avoid, which is a total great tactic for anxiety, which does nothing but makes it worse. And so I just avoid, and like, I'd rather sit at night, instead. Yes, I like to disconnect by self-soothing and watching great TV shows or even reading a book. But if the book is too connected to my own fears, then I just can't. And I feel like the only way through anxiety and through grief and loss and trauma and all those things is to walk in it. And it feels uncomfortable. And it, so I need to be sitting at home watching all the space movies because I feel like I don't want to fully live in that, but I feel like the only way to fully live is in that. If that makes sense.
You posted this video not too long ago with social media, and it freaked me out because it totally resonated with me because it's happened to me.
I was laughing.
You're at a party talking, and all of a sudden you were like, "Oh God,
I'm gonna die." I did this TikTok Zibby where I was like,
like at a party,
and the whole thing was like laughing, having a great time at a party. I'm gonna die one day.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I mean, that's like you just took that out of my brain. That's like how
and it happens
my inner workings.
Yeah, it happens at nighttime. I think because we are like, it's the only time where I actually have to slow down because you can't sleep unless you're calm. So you're quiet and you're dark. And my husband, falls asleep in the bed and then he goes to the other room because he's too loud of a sleeper. So like when he's in the room, I'm like super fine, and then he leaves like once like he's fallen asleep, I've fallen asleep. And then I'm like, and then I wake up, and sometimes I have these, I think I told you this, Roxy, with Glennon Doyle, we were saying this, like I sometimes just like yell, like sometimes I'll freak myself out so much that in the middle it'll just be like I'm falling asleep, and then I'll be like, ah! Like it's really crazy shit. And like my husband will be like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine, because I feel super ashamed. But like just sometimes I just go, ah! Like it's just this random scream.
And there was no sex even involved at that point.
No, I wasn't screaming. I wish I was screaming for him. I wish it was like, it wouldn't be like that, Roxy. It'd be more like, ooh. It wouldn't be like, I'm freaked out. It would be more like, ooh, yes, I'm freaked out.
Short and sweet.
So yeah, I'm glad that everyone, I mean, I don't know, maybe anxious people, maybe people who, you know what? Another therapy idea. Maybe it's people who are more in tune with like the world and frequencies and people's stories and realize that there's like a finite sort of beginning, middle, and end because you listen to people's stories. Maybe it affects those people more because the people on our podcast, Roxy, who are just like, you know, just into building an empire through real estate don't seem to have that as much. It's like the sensitive souls, like who are like trying to make a difference through what we do.
In the world, you know, like trying to do good things. I know it's true. It's true. I guess maybe it's a curse and a blessing all wrapped up in one, you know?
That was literally on my Instagram before I came on here. I started a blessing or a curse, you know, and then I ended it again, a blessing or a curse. And now how crazy, because I never say that. And now here you are saying that like an hour later.
Oh,
Anyway.
wow. It's all full circle.
I don't believe in coincidence. I totally believe in law of attraction. And the more I talk about it and the more Roxy and I practice it, it just seems to happen. Like, I don't think anything is random. I don't. I feel like people come into your life for a reason. I feel like people go through divorce for a reason, even though it sucks at the time. But most of the time when you're out of it and you look back into it, you go, wow, that is exactly what I needed and all those lessons I had to go through. But it sucks while you're having to pick yourself up. But all those things are part of the story, you know? I totally believe that we were meant to say those words, curse and is a curse or a blessing?
Right. No, it's true. The manifestation thing too is 100%. Now I've become like such a believer in it because it's
working for you.
The pudding. Yeah, the pudding. It actually does happen. Do you think you manifest, Zibby? Do you manifest like the things that have happened in your life?
I mean, I don't even like to say it out loud, but I feel like when I think things or I really need it, it is happening. Like if I put out all this, like all this positive energy just keeps like flowing out. And then whenever I'm like hitting bottom or I really need something, then like, yeah, somebody comes in or like, look at this, how nice. I was having the worst day today. And now I have this amazing conversation with the two of you who totally reshift my mood and make me rethink my entire life of like
you're like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah, but how great is that? And you know, something will change because of this. And I don't know, as I've gotten older, I don't know, maybe closer to death, or I don't know what it is. I start believing in all these signs and seeing signs. I mean,
agree.
I've like moved over to like, it is not just what you see is what you get. And I don't know exactly what else, but I don't know. I'm just, yes, I think energy and putting out good energy only brings good things. Not that that's why you should do it, but I think what goes around comes around.
Roxy, remember I said that I had that white Mustang?
Yeah.
And I always thought it was something negative. So now I've changed my tune. Yesterday, I was at the grocery store, like a Ralph's of Australia. And I bought my groceries, the big shop that I do for the week. And I saw a guy next to me and he had no shoes on and his like pants were ripped. He was definitely homeless and his groceries were there. I thought they were less expensive. But anyway, I'll tell you why I thought that. So then I saw him and I'm like, I should pay for his groceries. I was like, I should pay for his groceries, not do that. So like I went up to him and he had bought some cigarettes at the time. So I thought his bill was like $2.50 and it ended up being like $3.75. So when I got there, I was like, oh my God, that's a lot for groceries. But he probably got the dole, which is here, which is like, you know, government assistance. And I walked up to him and I was like, I'm going to pay for your groceries. And he goes, what? And I go, I'm going to pay for your groceries. He goes, why? And I go, because it's Christmas. Like I didn't want him to feel badly. And he said, we shouldn't do that. And I said, was it okay? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. Cause he obviously felt ashamed and I paid for them. And as I walked out, I saw the white Mustang.
You did.
Like, I don't go and pay for everyone's groceries. I'm not like trying to save the world. I just try to do like random acts of kindness every now and then, because I really believe that when you give, you get it. I don't know, it makes me feel better. It's almost selfish, you know? So I walked out and Zibby, I have this weird sign that happens when like things kind of go wrong in my life, and it's the white Mustang, and I see it very randomly. And I thought, well, maybe it's not that something's going wrong. It's just kind of a sign from God or from the universe or for something greater than me to say like, I'm watching you.
Mhm.
I'm watching over you. Because every time I like near miss a car or something, which doesn't happen all the time, I'll see a white Mustang. Or if like I'm in a really bad place, I'll see a white Mustang. So this was the first time I saw a white Mustang after something positive happened. So maybe again, it's that reframing of like those signs that you were talking about, Zibby, is like maybe it's that thing of like, I'm watching you. Like, it's okay. I'm watching you. I'm watching you. So like whatever you have as a sign, like I feel like when you say it out and you go, well, I'm going to see a butterfly, or I'm going to see this every time someone's watching me or watching over you, you'll start to see it. And it'll be in specific times in your life where you kind of need that too.
I think I think that's also how I calm myself down when I'm starting to panic. Is I do have this belief now that you can send signs. So it's not as black or white as I felt it was before. I feel like, and I've been telling my kids, which is, I don't know, maybe probably not true, but I'm like, you don't have to worry because I'm always going to be there. I'll be there. And my grandmother passed away. She was 97. And about a year before she died, I did this little video of her. And I was asking her, like, are you scared of dying? How do you feel about it? And she was like, well, I'm scared of being in pain, but I'm not scared of dying. She was really excited to be with my grandfather again. And I was like, I'm really going to miss you. And she's like, I'll be watching over you. And sometimes I literally can feel like her hand on my cheek when I'm like feeling sad and I believe that. So anyway, this is all kind of woo woo probably for
now
some
I'm
people.
crying.
But I do
I do believe. Like, how can you be so
signs.
connected to a person and love them so much and then they're just not here? Like they have to be here in different elements.
Yeah. There's definitely signs. And it's also like, it's so hard to comprehend, like, just for, even if it's like a day, right? Like they were here yesterday or they were here yesterday and then they're gone today. Like that, even that time kind of like space is hard to comprehend.
Yes.
How could somebody be here and then not be here?
Yeah.
And how can, like, this is really not as deep as you guys are talking, but like sometimes I watch a movie of myself in, well, I don't. My daughter watches a movie of me in it, like Flicka, and I'm like, wait, my daughter's watching a movie that I was in and they weren't even here. Like they're not conceived and like they weren't even, where the fuck were they? Where were they? And now they're watching me ride a horse and I remember it. I remember riding the horse.
Yeah.
But now they're watching me ride the horse and they're like, Mommy, that's you. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, you weren't even here. Like you didn't even know what grass or the sun was. Like sometimes I'm like, wait, what?
What?
I had the same
Because
thing.
you
I
don't-
wrote
yeah.
this. I wrote this little mini book when I was 9, and now my younger kids are 8 and 7, and so I read them like this little book, and it was so crazy because it was like the 9-year-old me talking to like the
your
8-year-old my
9-year-old.
daughter. It was the
Yeah.
craziest thing. I was like, this is so weird.
Because we don't think before we were really born. I mean, we do. We're like,
Yeah.
oh, I wasn't here then. But like, we don't really think about it. But like, to be here when people you love weren't here, I think is just, excuse my French, fucked up.
It's all so crazy, isn't it? It is. It's so crazy. Wait, Zibby, you also have to tell us, like, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, like, what is going on with like all of your stuff? I mean, we know you said you are creating the publishing company, which you're going to be doing. Where do you see like the podcast going? Like, are you seeing like TV shows and movies and like all kinds of stuff like that?
I am not sure. I definitely, in the next 5 years, yes, lots more books from Zibby
Okay.
Books, hopefully, God willing. I'm like knocking wood here. Yeah, maybe TV. I haven't decided if that's something that it would be fun. It takes so long, I feel like. My husband's a TV and film producer, and I don't know, at least for like scripted, it takes so long. I'm very impatient. I love this. This is like good, go, you're in, you're out. So maybe I want to do a lot more writing. I want to write another memoir after this one. I think maybe even about my grandmother is what I'm thinking. But I'd love to keep writing, and I want to figure out a way also to help more younger people get into writing. So we're doing this essay contest now for college essays on our publication Moms Don't Have Time to Write on Medium. And yeah, maybe teaching a little more. I don't know. I want to just help more younger people get into it and just have everything keep growing. and talk to more and more authors. I don't know. At some point, I'm like, am I gonna at one point finish all the authors in my room? Like, what then?
Yeah, you can.
I have like 500 books over there that are coming out. So there's no end in sight for books.
Very good.
We are so grateful to have you. I feel like we've sat over a glass of wine, and that's the best thing about
Me too. Thank
this
you.
show is, getting to know people. And now I feel like I know you very well. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You do. You totally know me very well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming
it's
on.
like speed podcast dating, isn't it?
I
know. Well, if we're ever in your neck of the woods, stay in touch.
Having a middle of the night, panic, musing, whatever, you can just text me.
I'll DM you.
DM me. Yeah, DM me.
We can freak out together. And every time you see a
together.
Mustang, you can think of me, a white Mustang.
I'll take a picture if I see one. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Tammy and
Thanks,
Roxy. It was so
Thank
fun
you.
and amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And where can people, before we leave, where can everyone find you? I know you've got so much going on, but like all our listeners, where can they see more of you?
On Instagram, I'm at Zibby Owens, ZIBBYOWENS. And my website is zibbyowens.com. So between those two, you'll find everything. And the podcast is Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books.
Oh, yes. And sex talk.
And, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Don't you put that under the rug.
Yeah.
He's like, don't talk about that one. He's like, Ixnay on the sex talk A.
Zibby and Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and comment. We are Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook. And we have a clubhouse group, Women on Top. And do what she says and rate, subscribe, and comment so we can keep
We need you to.
Guests
and I will be writing a book. So I actually have an idea for a book, Zibby. It's called Motherhood. I'm going to put it out there and now manifest it. It's called Motherhood, Mayhem, and Madness. And it's just because I've been writing essays for the newspaper here in Australia for years. And so every month I write a column. And so I was just thinking like, maybe I'll just put all my columns into a book, which is really about like mental health. It's about motherhood and it's about just the madness of life. So once that gets published,
oh my gosh,
then I
send
can
it to
come
me.
on your show.
Well, send me the book to maybe publish. I mean, I know you could get a million publishers, but that would be
I didn't even I've got all my essays ready. Yeah, I've got it's all ready to go. So I don't know the next steps. That's not my realm.
Just email me. Email me the manuscripts and let's see. It'll be fun.
Let's see. See, we just manifested it. It happened.
There you
Look,
go.
Roxy is magic.
See? Okay.
Amazing. So
we had a good day. Well, the guys, well, now everyone heard it right here. So
I love it. I can't wait to read your essays. I'm excited.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks, guys. We love you. I am Tammin Sursok.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are Women on... Come on, Zibby! Talk!